Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all very much for being here today. It's great to be at Husker Harvest and being able to talk about our largest industry here in Nebraska, which is why we are all here today. We are here to talk about some strategies for how we can continue to help our farmers and ranchers in the state and grow the state of Nebraska. One of the things we all know is that commodity prices have been down, and it certainly puts a lot of pressure on our producers. We see it in their corn, we see it in beef, and what we want to talk about today are some of the things that we can do. And it's important because whether you're a rancher near Harrison or with a food processor in Omaha, agriculture drives our state economy. It's the heart and soul of what we do. 25% of our folks are employed in agriculture. And if we want to grow the state of Nebraska, we have to grow agriculture. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about three things in particular that are going to be important for how we go forward. One of the things that we know, certainly as I travel around the state and talk to folks, property taxes continues to be an issue for our agricultural producers. We've made some steps in those directions. Last year, working together with the legislature, we increased the property tax credit relief fund by over 45%. In this biennium, we'll deliver $408 million in direct dollar-for-dollar tax relief from the state to all property owners in the state. Now we know we want to do more, so we came back in the legislative session this year that we had in the spring, and we passed LB 958 and 959. In 958, we were able to pass another $20 million directed just at agriculture through that property tax credit relief fund. In 959, we were able to pass some expense controls to be able to help with that property tax relief. 60 to 75% of your property taxes are that school district. And so we were able to get some expense controls from that standpoint. Now we know we've got more work to do. So we're working with various groups, talking to different people, looking for new ideas within my administration about some ideas we want to come back and talk about in the next legislative session. As governor, I want to do tax relief in every legislative session. And we've got some work to do to be able to come back for next year with regard to that. Now, we also know that one of the ways that we can help expand our markets is through international trade. I led 2 trade missions last year, one to Europe and one to Asia. And in fact, I just got back from the U.S. Midwest Japan Association just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And that's important. Japan is our 3rd largest trading partner and are the largest foreign direct investor in Nebraska. And by opening up those opportunities overseas, we can be able to help support some of the commodity prices and create more markets for our producers here in the state. We can also get that investment that helps us create jobs here in Nebraska. For example, Japan, or Japanese companies, have invested $4.4 billion in Nebraska since 2010. And helping expand those companies here creates jobs. We can also expand it, as I mentioned, through the trade. And just a few weeks ago, Director Ibaugh was over in Taiwan and signed a deal, or signed a letter of intent rather, with the country of Taiwan for over $400 million in agricultural products. Corn, soybeans, distillers grains, and for the first time ever, beef and pork. And so if we can open up those trade opportunities, that will help us expand our markets. One of the opportunities that we have is the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is a trade deal that will help us expand our trade with Asia. It's important that we get this signed. It would help us, for example, take the tariffs, for example, on our beef going to Japan down from 38.5% down to 9%. That will help us be more competitive with local products. It'll help offset some of the effects of the strong dollar, and again, help us expand our trade. So we all want to encourage our federal delegation and all of our U.S. senators to be able to sign that deal when it comes up, because that will help us grow our markets. Now, a third area we can focus on is regulation. Cutting out the regulatory red tape that we see. So, for example, my administration has worked with the Nebraska cattlemen to be able to help cut some of that on, say, on covered farm vehicles. We've pushed back against the EPA. In fact, just yesterday we signed a letter with, it was 7 Midwest governors, asking the EPA to get rid of some of the regulatory roadblocks of using E15. Ethanol is important in our state, And if we can reduce some of the regulatory roadblocks for people using E15, that will help expand the market for it. We've also pushed back on the EPA when it comes to the renewable fuel standard. They keep trying to cut that back. And we keep telling them they should do what Congress had intended, follow the guidelines Congress set out there. We also push back on the EPA in areas like the waters of the U.S. That would be very detrimental to our producers here in the state, adding a lot more regulatory overhead. So there's some things that we can talk about from that standpoint as well. So I'm pleased to be joined here today by representatives of the Farm Bureau, the Nebraska Cattlemen, the corn growers, the Nebraska State Dairy Association, the Soybean Association, and the pork producers to be able to talk about some of these things that we can do to help grow agriculture here in Nebraska. So thank you all very much for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Nelson, President of the Nebraska Farm Bureau, to talk about some of these issues in more depth. Steve?
Good morning, everyone. To me, this is a beautiful day at Husker Harvest Days. It's cool. It's not raining. Great to see all of you here, and hope you're all having a good time here at Husker Harvest Days. And for those of you that have not had an opportunity to go through our booth, please do that. You know, the governor said a lot of really good things and important things, and he talked about the importance of agriculture to Nebraska's economy. There's a direct tie between the strength of agriculture and the strength of the state's economy. In fact, they're virtually inseparable. Today, around 25% of the jobs, employment, and wage income in Nebraska comes from production agriculture and agribusiness. 40% of Nebraska's business receipts represent ag and ag-related industries. As Nebraska's ag economy goes, so goes the economy of the state of Nebraska. We're really glad to be here at Husker Harvest Days, as I said, but it's a different environment than it was just a few years ago. Today, farmers and ranchers don't have the money to spend that they did 2 or 3 years ago, and so it's certainly a different environment as we look around at all of the things that represent the future of agriculture. It's going to be a lot about prioritizing what we do in agriculture. With the farm income being significantly lower and certainly margins in all of the economies all of the commodities that we grow in Nebraska being less than they have been, as the governor mentioned, this is truly a concern, and we probably haven't seen the worst of it yet. In 2016, net farm income projections are projected to decline 12% over 2015 and about 44% over what we had in 2013. Again, it's important that all Nebraskans understand that what happens on the farm and ranch affects everyone in the state of Nebraska. So what can we do about it? What can we do and what must we do? Well, first we can address the property tax situation in the state of Nebraska, and the governor talked about that. In July, leaders from the ag groups that are represented here today came together to talk about important issues for the future of agriculture in the state of Nebraska. The number one issue that we discussed was property taxes. How do we fix our broken property tax system? And today we have a situation where we have property taxes in many areas on a per acre basis higher than the individual costs of seed, fertilizer, and fertilizer. So it has become an extraordinarily significant cost to farmers and ranchers. What we need is reform in our property tax policy and in our property tax system. And these are the points that would ensure that we have that. First, that all Nebraskans get property tax relief. Second, that we adequately fund the schools in the state. That we control spending at all levels of government. And that we rebalance the tax system so that it doesn't increase the overall tax burden for all Nebraskans. As we move forward in this year's legislative session, working as partners in agriculture with the governor, with the state legislature, these will be our goals. So again, look, very good to see all of you here. Hope you have a great Husker Harvest Days, and it's my pleasure at this time to to introduce Barb Cooksley, who is the chairman of the Nebraska Cattlemen. Barb.
Thank you and good morning. It is a pleasure to be here today and represent Nebraska Cattlemen. You'll see on the far left there's a chart talking about the exports and the impact it has on Nebraska. As we all know, some facts and figures, cattle outnumber people 4 to 1 in Nebraska, and as a cow-calf producer in the Sandhills, I really enjoy that. We produce 1 out of every 5 steaks and hamburgers in the United States, and Nebraska cattle industry is the state's single largest industry. We depend on our forage producers, our corn producers, and we use this to develop the best tasting, highest quality beef there is. And regarding the exports, Nebraska families and producers will benefit greatly with the passage of TPP. Every day without TPP, we lose over $400,000 to Japan alone. We have the beef, the world wants it. Cattlemen and women need TPP to ensure fair access to these markets. In fact, Nebraska Cattlemen believes in TPP so much that after the elections, we're going to head back to the Capitol Hill and respectfully demand that at least this be taken up for a vote. This is that important to Nebraska Cattlemen. And with this, I would like to introduce Larry Musak.
Good morning. I am Larry Musak. I'm a farmer from Decatur, which is in northeast Nebraska, and I am also serving currently as the president of the Nebraska Corn Growers. I want to thank the governor this morning for allowing us to join him today in this news conference. I want to talk about regulations a little bit today. Regulations on agriculture have become increasingly burdensome, whether they directly affect our industry or whether they affect those that supply inputs to us. In the end, the results are the same. Agriculture pays. We've seen regulatory overreach with issues that the governor talked about, waters of the U.S. or WOTUS, with anhydrous ammonia management, and with the use of atrazine. Today, I would like to specifically touch on atrazine and EPA's proposed rule that could potentially lead to the inability of corn producers to have access to this important weed management product. In June of this year, EPA released a proposed rule that would significantly lower what is called the level of concern for atrazine. Although not supported by science, this proposal would essentially lead to a de facto ban on the use of atrazine across the Corn Belt. Now, atrazine is a herbicide that has been around for decades and has been utilized by corn and sorghum farmers as well as others. I personally have used atrazine for probably close to 40 years. I know I don't look quite that old, but anyway, close to 40 years, and I found it to be an effective management tool to control a broad range of weeds in my crops. It has been proven safe by over 7,000 scientific studies, including EPA's own scientific advisory panel. Yet even today, EPA is proposing to significantly reduce the approved safe use of atrazine across the U.S. That move would cause further economic stress to our industry and would set a bad precedent for future reviews of herbicides by the EPA. Most recently, atrazine has been utilized by corn farmers in over 70 different combinations or tank mixes. That has allowed farmers to go from our previous conservation tillage practices to more efficient minimum tillage and no tillage. If we don't have access to atrazine, the additional cost could range from anywhere from $29 to $59 an acre. Now that sounds like a lot. I talked to my own co-op provider, and he said right off the top of his head, $20 minimum for increased herbicide costs. This $29 to $59 includes things such as the use of other herbicides. Maybe we have to go out and till the soil now. That takes time, it costs money. With tillage, there could be soil loss. water efficiency or the use of water could go downhill on us. We're going to need more rain when we start to till ground. We're going to lose time. We could lose yield, and we could certainly have other costs that I haven't outlined today. These would be additional costs that our industry cannot allow when the cost of production is already at or above what we can sell our corn for. We strongly are encouraging farmers to submit comments to EPA during the open comment period that ends October 5th. Farmers can go to www.fightepa.com to submit their comments, or come on down the street here and visit us at the Nebraska Corn Growers booth, and we'll help you out. We're at the commodity building, just down here on my left a little ways. We cannot allow EPA to move forward. The science does not support their proposal, and as an industry, we cannot allow a bad precedent to be set. I again appreciate the governor's strong support for our industry and his understanding of the burden regulations can have on all of us. I encourage all producers to let their voice be heard. Finally, we are facing challenging times in agriculture. And there is at least one farmer out there, it says so on his shirt, but I'm sure there's a lot more of you. Farmers are resilient. Farmers are innovative. This has happened before. Prices have been down, costs have been up. We'll get through this. We're innovative. We can make this work. We might not do it with a smile, but we will get through it. The cycles do change. Finally, harvest gets a little crazy, so take your time out there. I want you all to have a productive harvest and take a moment for safety. Thank you. Well, the last part, next is Kenny Boswell from the Soybean Association.
Well, kind of go on what Larry just said about atrazine. I represent the Soybean Association, and most of our soybean farmers are also corn farmers. And with the resistant weeds that we're dealing with in soybeans currently that are resistant to the glyphosate herbicides, that we need atrazine to maintain the different modes of action to control these resistant weeds that we're dealing with in the soybeans. And on the property tax issue, it affects us that the cost of property taxes continue to rise. And one comment I'll make here, that I am in the Southeast Community College district, and personally that is going to add, if that bond issue passes, it's going to add $3.53 per acre to my property taxes in my area. Thank you.
Great. Well, hey, again, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Again, agriculture is what drives our state economy. And with commodity prices where they are, we need to be thinking about how we can help our Nebraska farm and ranch families. And that's why you saw the folks that were up here today talking about some of those strategies. Obviously, property taxes is something that people continue to talk to me about. We've been trying to control our state government spending and keep that at a level of about 3% a year. Counties and school districts and all those other local property tax entities should be thinking about doing the same. And actually, I do want to take a moment here to talk about some of the folks who are doing a good job. If you look at some of the counties that have controlled their expenses and are actually asking less today than they did in 2010, we've got counties like Boone, Gosper, Hamilton, Kearney, Logan, McPherson, Nance, and Thomas have all controlled their spending and are asking less today in property taxes than they did in 2010. That kind of expense control is one of the things we can do to help address property taxes. And we're going to continue to look for solutions as we go forward into next year. Trade, as we mentioned, is also a big deal. As Barb pointed out with her chart here, Nebraska's share of beef exports has gone from about less than 4% in 2004 to over 18% today. That means of all that beef that's getting exported, almost 1 in 5 is coming from Nebraska. So that's a good deal, and again, why we want to expand that and why TPP is so important to expand. And then finally, the regulation is that hidden cost that impacts everybody. And again, with what the EPA is doing on a variety of things like Waters of the U.S. or now this new atrazine rule, it's important that we push back on it. And here's where all of you have the opportunity to go make that comment on the EPA's website about the new rule on atrazine. It's certainly something that will impact all this here and will be something that is, again, hurting our farm and ranch families. All of these things working together are things we can do to improve the condition of agriculture here in Nebraska, and we look forward to continuing to do that as we look forward into 2017.